Is it just me, or are you also getting frustrated with the high cost of food? I can't go to even McDonald's these days without spending almost $20-something for lunch for me and my kids. It's just insane. And I'm talking like 2 Happy Meals and a value meal. Not much of a value anymore when I'm spending almost $30 for food. Let's talk about it. I mean, do y'all remember when we used to have a dollar menu? I do. It was awesome. But you know what? As soon as we started enjoying this, they got rid of it. And then what did we get? Well, after 2013, then they gave us this. And I'm not just going to pick on McDonald's. This is for all food. Groceries, fast food, everything in general that you can consume. And God help me if I have to hear another CEO or CFO talk about how thankful and gracious they are of their, patrons and customers for continuing to come to their stores and, deal with the inflation head on like they are having to deal with it too. Because they're not. We're dealing with it. Because you know why? Look behind me here. You don't have it here. This is in Arizona. But the doggone, this cheeseburger meal right here, a double cheeseburger in Arizona, if you remember in the last slide, it went from $1 from 2012-13 to where we're at today to $4.86. And you're trying to tell me that's inflation. Hail to the nah. That is greedflation. And let me show you why. Take Pepsi for an example. Pepsi, everyone tends to drink soda, and they continuously have price hikes. And however, the interesting thing about Pepsi is, even though they're raising their prices due to inflation, the interesting thing is if you actually look at their 10K or their quarterly filings, their top line, their revenue, is up nearly 15%. Oh, but why is that, Matthew? Well, let's look below here. Their performance is nothing new. Because again, their revenue on the top line and profit growth are all coming from higher prices, as opposed to volume growth. They're not actually selling you more. They're just charging you more. So while these companies are fighting the good fight against inflation to help us little guys out, just remember, their menu prices are up 10% from a year earlier. And just like Chipotle, McDonald's is also having record profits and their stocks at all-time highs and eclipsing new 52-week highs as we speak. So if you get tired of paying higher prices and you're wondering when's it ever going to change, well, just continue to look at the stock prices on a lot of these companies. But you don't have to look too far, because their profits are record high and the stocks are all at record highs. So you tell me, guys, is it inflation or is it greed inflation? Let me know in the comments.
Welcome back to my channel. Welcome back to another episode of Just Another Number podcast. I'm your host, 17. Today's episode 3, Greedflation. And we're going to start off just like what the clip was saying. You remember when we used to have a dollar menu at McDonald's? You remember when, well, this is from personal experience, just to show my age a little bit. You remember when we used to have quarter bag of chips? We used to have quarter juices, used to be able to get a Nutty Buddy, 25 cents, things was a quarter, and we didn't realize it then because, we were younger. But as we got older and we became adults, you really started to kind of understand the value of a dollar. Once you became older, once you took on more responsibilities, once you had to pay bills, put gas in your car, once you became an adult, you really start to notice the increase. Like, I can remember gas as low as maybe like a $1.39, right? I can remember probably a little lower than that. And then when I started driving, the gas was like $2 instantly off top. And I wasn't hearing so much about inflation back then. It was more so about, hey, these oil companies is, they upcharging on the oil. They just like, okay, we just gonna jack up the rates. Well, that's kind of what's happening now, on a more global scale. These companies, man, they are going through the roof. They're just trying to, they're not trying, they're doing it. So, okay, let's ask the question, what is inflation? Inflation, it is an increase in prices of goods and services. The most well-known indicator of inflation is the Consumer Price Index, CPI, which measures the percentage change in the price of a basket of goods and services consumed by households. Okay, that's like the textbook definition of it. So, for my non-business people, for most people who don't know how to run a business, the common thing is, okay, you're going to be paying some markup. Because, if you're running a business, you got to make a profit. So the key is not to have high overhead in whatever it is you're doing, whether, you're selling a product, services, all of that. You have to factor all of that in to the price that you're charging. Understandable. Most people don't mind paying a fair price, something that they see as fair. Okay, now that varies. That's an objective stance. But what we're starting to see is, these companies are charging more money, but not really necessarily making changes. Well, not positive changes. In some cases, you have some companies that start taking ingredients out of products. They take ingredients out of the products to make them cheaper. Well, when you start taking out ingredients, sometimes, especially if it's something to do with food, the quality of it goes down. Like, it doesn't taste as good, but you're charging more for it. I'm just gonna be honest. It's all greed to me. It's greed. Okay. Productivity has gone up in this country. Wages have not. We have a hell of a wage gap in this country. It's just corporate greed, hands down, all across the table. It doesn't matter how you look at it. It's corporate greed. And some people will watch this and see, oh, you're anti-business. I'm not anti-business. Okay. I understand that we need some form of business. Okay. But what I'm against is greed. I'm okay with people trying to make a profit, but you should be making a profit. How I'll put it this way. I'm more pro worker than I am pro business. You see, because a business, most businesses can't function without its workers. And as workers, we tend to forget that we have the power. We literally have the power. I don't mean to make it as cliche, but we have the power, right? If you all at your job decided, hey, we're not going to go to work tomorrow, what are they going to fire you all? Most likely not. If people decide to go on strike and say, hey, you know what, man, we need more money. You guys are not paying us enough money, so we just not going to come to work. That'd be great. The problem is we don't live in a collective society. I mentioned this on the last episode. We don't live in a collective society. We live under capitalism, which is individually based, right? They teach you, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. It's an individual's mindset. Now, I'm not arguing for or against this. I'm not arguing for or against, but it's an individualized mindset and mindset. Instead of thinking about the collective, hey, let's move as a unit. Let's move as a group, because if we move as a group, we can get more done. This is true for, I don't want to go too far off the topic, but this is true for organizations who go down and bribe, but I don't mean bribe, lobby, which is bribe. They go down and they lobby their congressmen and women. This is how they're able to get things to work in their favor, because you have some form of organization behind you. So you have no power as an individual. You don't have any power as an individual, unless you have millions and billions of dollars to be able to, buy off a politician or two or three or five. Doesn't matter. But as a collective, you have more power. This is why the powers that should not be are against unions. You see, you bring up the word union in this day and age, and it's perceived to be a dirty word, right? You go to a non-unionized workplace, you go to a non-unionized environment, and you mention the word union, you probably gonna get fired on the spot. That's the last thing they want are unions. They don't want you to come together as a collective. They don't want that. This is why they tell you not to discuss your pay in the workplace. This is why they tell you, hey, this is for you. Don't tell anybody else what you're getting paid. Right? Like, why is it such a big secret? If we're all in here doing the same job, hey, why such the pay disparity? I'm not understanding. That's a whole topic for another day. Okay. So greedflation, is it greed or is it inflation? Well, it could be both. In my opinion, I do think it's more greed than inflation. I think inflation is taking place. Yes. Some of the numbers I've seen back this up, and I probably should have included them in the video, but it's more so about greed from what I'm seeing. It's definitely more so about greed. I hear it from people in my daily life. I hear it just in general. Going into the gas station, you hear people talking and complaining about, hey, we're not getting paid enough or this, that, and the third. I hear this all the time. I hear it at my place of work. So this is a common thing, right? We live under capitalism. When you break down capitalism, what is it? When you really think about capitalism, what is it? It's a capitalist. You look at a capitalist. What does a capitalist do? He capitalizes off of the less fortunate. Most of us work for someone. Most of us don't own businesses. Most people do not own a business. Most people work for someone. They'll tell you not to look at it that way. Oh, well, they're the job creators. They're giving you an opportunity. Oh, wow. Your sales pitch is horrible. You're giving me an opportunity to work for you. Right. No, we have bills to pay. People have to pay their bills. People have to survive. They have to make a living. A lot of people don't want to work, and I don't blame them. I'm not going to call them lazy. Some people would call people lazy for not wanting to work. I don't blame them. These companies now, they want you to work basically to your fingers to the bone, but they won't pay you pennies, pay you crumbs. See, productivity goes up. Common sense would dictate that, hey, maybe wages should go up. We're giving productivity. We're making more products. And if you're selling more products, you get more profit. But come on now. It's capitalism. It's capitalism. It's greed. You're going to make as much money as you can make, right? That's the name of the game. It's capitalism. Greed is included in capitalism. I mean, I don't care how you slice it, So me trying to do a little research for this show. Corporate greed. There have been plenty of cases of corporate greed in this country. It's like basically companies are more focused on maximizing their profits. It's become, let's maximize the profits of the company versus actually taking care of the workers. That's happening a lot. That's happening on a grand scale. They'll rather take care of their shareholders and their CEOs and all the people at the top. But they won't take care of the laborers. It's like labor has been devalued in this country, which it has. And it's all started with your homeboy Reagan back in the 80s with the Reaganomics garbage. Trickle down economics. Trickle down. That never made sense to me. Trickle down? Why would I want the money to trickle down? Hey, let's start it from the bottom up, right? Because if you can take care, if you can take care of the less fortunate in the society, you know what that does? That drives down crime. drives down violence. When people have opportunities, especially economic opportunities, you don't have as much crime. You don't have as much, obviously there's no silver bullet for this thing. Nothing is absolute. But when people have the means, it kind of eliminates the need to be out here committing crime. A lot of it is economic anxiety. Now, that term economic anxiety has been thrown around a lot. And some people even use it as a code word for racism. But, that's another topic for another day. But these companies have shady business practices. It's all about profits. But what they're doing is they're stifling wages, wage suppression. Right. They'll put an artificial cap on how much you can make. Let's say if you're a production line worker, they increase productivity on you. Say, hey, we need you need to move out X amount of units per week, per month, per year. That number goes up with what you're expected to produce. But you get paid hourly. Your pay does not increase. So yet you're working harder, making them more money, which in turn they're not putting back into their company in the form of their workers. Especially if you work in manufacturing, if you're working on busted up equipment and they're not even putting the money back and fixing the equipment or getting you guys new machines to be able to produce new product, where's that money going? You know exactly where it's going. You see, on the one hand, they want to brag and tell you, hey, we're making record profits. It's a slap in the face. You see, because they think most of us are dumb. They think most of us are stupid. They talk about record profits. And then when you like, okay, y'all making record profits. Okay, so where's my raise? I need a raise. Oh, well, we can't really afford. What do you mean you can't afford? How can't you afford to give your folks a raise? How can't you afford to give your employees a raise? But you just said you're making record profits. Which one is it? You see, greed. Oh, my goodness. Greed is the key to it all. Take 2008, for example, right? 2008, we had a market crash, the Great Recession in 2008. Basically, what the financial sector was doing was, the banks, the financial institutions, all of that. Basically, what they were doing was giving out predatory loans. They had irresponsible lending, giving people loans that they knew couldn't afford these homes and stuff like that. What they did is they created a bubble. And when that bubble burst, when it popped in 2008, that's when you get that crash. People start defaulting on their loans. Their homes start getting foreclosed upon. And next thing you know, hey, these institutions are too big to fail. Remember that? Remember too big to fail? So we gotta bail them out. So you people on a certain side of the aisle, you fought all these years tooth and nail to get regulations removed, right? Regulations removed so you could have all these shady business practices, give out these predatory loans. And then when it comes back to bite you, now you're there with your hand out. Hey, we need help. We need help, Wait a minute. I thought it was pull yourself up by your bootstraps. I thought it was sink or swim. What happened to all that individualism? Now you guys are here begging for what? What y'all talk about? What y'all hate? What y'all talk so bad about? What gets demonized in this country? Socialism. Socialism for the socialism for the rich. Corporate welfare. It's fine for you. It's not fine for the rest of us, huh? mean, and it's one big racket too, man. I haven't even gotten into the pharmaceutical industry, how they raise prices on these life-saving drugs. People need these drugs to live. And you guys want to price gouge. You want to charge all of this money for life-saving drugs. Because the game is about profit. Profit over people. Well, I'm just going to say it right here. I'm going to say this right now, and I'm going to be very clear about it. It's just some things in this world you should not be able to make a profit off of. Some industries should not exist. And I'll say it for what it is. You should not be able to make a profit off of someone who's sick. It's immoral. But, you know, that's capitalism for you. There's no morality in capitalism. Now, people that see this and think, oh, you're a communist, you're this, you're that. First off, you don't know me. Stop it. Stop with your accusations. What I am is pointing out the inadequacies about capitalism. Does it have its good elements to it? Of course it does. There's some good elements to it. I'm not here to point out the good. I'm just not. Because how would it sound for me pointing out the good parts of capitalism when I hear so many people, I'm around so many people who are struggling to get ahead, who are struggling to get by, let alone get ahead. They're struggling to stay afloat. Cost of living keeps going up. Rent keeps going up. A lot of people are not even fortunate enough to be able to go and buy a home. You got all of these things happening. And you want me to talk about the good? It's like a slap in the face. They're going to look at you like, what good? Man, I'm out here struggling. My job ain't paying me enough money. I'm working 40 plus hours, getting OT, all of that. And I'm still barely making ends meet because even if I get a raise at work, boom, next thing you know, price of eggs then went up by $4. Price of bread then went up $2. Gas then went up by $1.50. Everything going up but my wages. So pretty soon, all I'm gonna have money for is to buy the cheapest, most unhealthiest versions of food and barely put a roof over my head. Don't these people realize that's not good for the economy? If people don't have extra wealth, if they don't have disposable income, how can you possibly have a good economy? Don't even get me started with the people who have an issue with having student loans forgiven. Well, I paid mine. Well, whoop-de-frickin' do. Good for you. So? Good for you. Great. You were able to do so. I'm pretty sure when you were paying back your student loans, the cost of living wasn't so high. I'm trying to watch my language. But it upsets me. It enrages me when I see people complain online. You get mad at someone. You get mad at someone for wanting some relief, wanting some help. But yet the government subsidizes industries that are already making record-breaking profits. And yet they still get government subsidies every year. The oil industry comes to mind. We send them billions of dollars in subsidies. We got money to help the businesses. You remember, they forgave all those PPP loans. They forgave all of that. They was quick to forgive them loans. But you can't forgive student loans. A portion of student loans. I mean, they wasn't even trying to forgive the whole thing. I mean, they was just saying up to 20 grand, 20,000. In some people cases, that ain't even making a dent. But no, we got money for businesses. We got money for corporations. We just ain't got it for you. Just not for you. There's so many reasons for this. There's plenty of reasons for this, man. It's just so many. You got these crooks, these banksters on Wall Street. They in there with insider trading, all of this crooked, shady stuff going on. I mean, the system is literally rigged, and it's not rigged in our favor. If you ain't got money, they ain't thinking about you. You sheep, you cattle to them. You ain't even on the board. It kind of, it kind of gets depressing a little bit as I sit here and I'm doing this show. When I think about the income inequality, it's like you got a very small percentage of people who own so much of the wealth of this country, of America. You have a very, very wealthy small few who own so much. And then they say, and you get so many people. I'll be honest, you got so many people who will sit up here and defend it. They'll defend rich people. This is what I never understood about some of y'all. You probably broke, living in a trailer somewhere, barely making ends meet, but yet you'll defend a rich person who wouldn't give you the shirt off their back, who wouldn't give you a dime, wouldn't give you a dollar. If the dollar menu still existed, wouldn't give you a dollar to get you a sandwich. Wouldn't help you, not one bit. But you'll defend these people. You'll defend the rich. Because in your crazy mind, in your crazy world, you think that one day you will become them. I got a better chance of hitting a Powerball. It's not going to happen. You see, it's literally an American dream. They got you dreaming, thinking that, hey, it's going to be you. Hey, this could be you. Just pull yourself up by your bootstraps. The system, the game is not designed for everyone to be rich. It's not designed that way. But people still hold out hope until their dying day, thinking that it's going to be them. It's insane. It's literally insane. I can never. It just doesn't. It's not going to ever make sense to me. None of it is. It's greed. All across the board, hands down. It's just straight up greed. And everybody just keeps falling for it. Because they keep preaching this individualist mindset. It really goes back to the mindset. It really does. This individualized mindset is what prevents us from coming together as a collective to try to move the needle to get things done more so in our favor. (2010) case, Citizens United basically made it legal. They made it legal for corporations to beat people. And I think it probably happened before that. Probably happened in the 1970s, I believe. But is money speech? I know they made a movie, Money Talks, but is money speech for real? Seriously? Do you talk with your money? Or do you talk with your mouth? Why is it that the politician, to run his or her campaign, they need money? They need money for advertisement. They need money for campaign staff. They just need money. And to get that money, they sell out to the corporate PACs. They sell out to the corporations. But seeing how there isn't enough corporations and it's not enough corporate people in the country for votes, they rely on you and me, the less fortunate, They'll whisper sweet nothings into your ear. Hey, we're fighting for health care. Hey, we're fighting to lower taxes. Pick your flavor. It doesn't matter. Red or blue, pick your side. It doesn't matter. They all say the same thing. One party's better than the other. You take your pick. I'm not here to play politics with y'all. Some people are trying to help the people, and then some people are trying to help rich people. And then you got a mixture of both. People just again, sorry, it's just depressing. Right? I try not to make a bunch of edits in my show. I just try to let it just be raw and unfiltered. I try not to make a bunch of cutouts and stuff. But it's just sad at the end of the day. It's beyond sad. You got these people who they would rather pad their own pockets than actually going to Congress or going to any elected position, whether it's the U.S. Congress or it's a state position, state house. They're not. What are they doing? Are they even doing anything for the people? Are they doing anything for the people? And then another major problem you get, they like to play politics. Instead of getting things done, they rather play these stupid inside the beltway political games when it's literally people's lives on the line. All of our lives on the line every day. You don't know if you're going to make it back home once you step out your house to go to work, to do whatever, to hustle, to do whatever you got to do to try to keep a plate of food on your table. They don't care. They there to play political games. They ain't really moving the needle. They ain't really getting much done. You got all these corporations that's just getting away with murder. From the pharmaceutical companies to the oil industry, messing up our environment. Oh, don't even get me started on these dang on insurance companies. Which the whole purpose of an insurance company is to be there in case of, an accident, in case anything happens, whether it's insurance on your car or homeowner's insurance or whatever. I've gone through this personally. Having a car accident a few years ago. And, my advice to any of you, if you get a car note and you're paying on your car, you're making monthly payments on that note, make sure you get something called gap insurance. It's called gap insurance. Make sure you have that. See, I had gap insurance and it really came in handy because what it does is, if you owe a lot on the car, if your car gets totaled out, what they'll end up doing is they'll take whatever the car is worth and then deduct it from what you owe on the car, right? So in my case, I owed $11,000 and some change on the car. And by the time when the woman hit my car, when she totaled my car, I got back like $8,500. Well, this is where gap insurance comes into play. You see, with gap insurance, they cover the gap. I owed 11, but they paid like 84, 85. So it's a little gap. Gap insurance is supposed to pay that. Make sure you read the fine print when you get gap insurance because they will do everything in their power to not pay. This is with all insurance companies. They all do this. They all in it to make a profit. And they try to find a way, try to weasel the way out of paying for whatever. This is what they're going through right now in Maui with those wildfires, supposedly wildfire. This is what they're going through in Maui. Insurance companies don't want to cover nothing. Well, what was I paying insurance? What was I paying you for? If not for this exact situation. So now you're trying to find some little stupid loophole to not pay. Right? Because it's just money. It's just about the money. Hey, as long as we get your money, you essentially just going to the casino. At least with the casino, you have somewhat of a good time. You have fun losing your money at the casino. I mean, some of you do. You get the thrill of either playing the slots or, playing some blackjack or whatever your poison is, whatever you like. But at least you have a good time. But let me not get too far off track. Insurance company, same thing, greed. Most of these corporations, it's just greed. That's all it's about. It's just greed. It's always been that way. It's just greed. It's about what you can pay. It's just greed. Thanks for watching today's episode. I really like this episode from the standpoint of, it came off as a rant, but it needed to be said. But let me know what you think in the comment section, whether you like what I said, whether you agreed, whether you disagreed. Let's have a healthy, respectful discussion. That's the only way we're going to get to the bottom of some of these problems in society. So, like I always end it, remember, to the powers that should not be, me and you are just another number. Thanks again for watching. I love y'all. Stay safe out there. Till next time.